All right, so we're gonna tackle the power steering now. So we got the banjo nut for the main power steering reservoir, and then the other line. So we're gonna replace the reservoir and pretty much all the power steering lines. And we're also going to be installing a new ZHP steering rack. So yellow tag. Oh yes, that yellow tag. For you BMW enthusiasts would probably know what that yellow tag means. So we're gonna go ahead and get that going, and let's see some power steering fluid drain.
So does this have to be bled?
No.
So you just fill up the reservoir.
And what you do is you then turn once it's all filled up, you fill it up, you run it, and then you top it off. And what you do then is you turn the steering wheel all the way from one side to the other until you hit the dead spot.
Yeah.
And then you keep going back and forth, and that will technically bleed it, and the air pockets will come out through the reservoir. You do want to have the cap off when you do that.
So this has likely never been touched. Is this when does BMW recommend this get serviced? I don't know that I've ever done. It's like 100,000 miles or something.
Yeah, it's probably close to the 60,000 to 100,000 range, right in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've never done anything with this in my life.
Yep. Now, nobody go trying this at home now. This is my idea. Mine. I came up with it. Little leverage. So now just removing the bolts for the cooler. And now it's loose. So now what I'm working on is the two banjo nuts on the power steering rack, which are above, but I can get them from right here. So one of them's already loose. I'm just trying to get them to drip so that way we don't make a mess with the oil that's dripping. So the smaller ones are 19 millimeter heads, and then the bigger ones are 22 millimeters. All right, so time to remove this reservoir. Oh, I did have it right. Damn. I'm gonna have to get me one of these.
That one's sitting over there. Do a little barter in there.
I might have to walk out with a bunch of tools instead of other stuff. And
straight in the trash. That's why if I had my ice, I'd be in here blasting this all off.
Yeah, man. Ooh. Okay, so I am just kind of pre-assembling this right here. I will tighten everything while I have it in place up there. And I was about to mess up. Getting ahead of myself. I need the bracket off the old one. All right, so back to it again now. I'm gonna put my hose back on now. Now that I got my bracket in place, it's all loose. I'm gonna go ready to drop this bad boy back in. All right, so what we're gonna do is I got it all secured, and I'm just gonna raise the car back up and get the lines in place and hand tighten those down. One thing, the rack will be coming, so I'm only gonna hand tighten the banjo bolts on the actual power steering rack. So we're gonna keep plugging away. All right, so the rack's going to be in, so there's other handful of items we got to finish up on, and a couple of other things that we're going to do in addition. But once the rack gets in, technically I just put these two screws in place, and we'll just move those out of the way and drop the rack and install the new one, and then bolt everything back together. And since technically it is here, well, it's arriving, just not here at the shop. It's going to Matt's house. So we'll get that going as soon as possible, and at the next event we'll hopefully finish this whole thing up. Matt's very eager to get this thing back and running. So from where we left off last time, we were waiting for the rack, the steering rack to come in. So we finally got that in, and so I got my new lines already installed. The the reservoir is installed as well. So right now we got 2 bolts here and the nuts that we have to remove, and then we have to remove the ball joint from here, so that way we can install the whole new rack in. And we also have to release the knuckle for the on the power steering rod rack. So yeah, let's get to it. Oh, we are putting new ones in. I didn't want to, I thought we were using the used ones again, or reusing them. I didn't want to mess up the ball joint seal.
Do I have to do one of those?
I just
There we go. Okay. So I got them removed. Thank goodness that it's only got like so many years on it, but like 30-something thousand miles on it. So it wasn't really hard. What I did is I backed the nut all the way out. And so just in case I don't chew up or mess up any of the threads on there. So I just got a chisel, smacked it down, and it took about 3-4 hits and they all popped out. So now they're loose. So I just take the rest of the nut off. Well, with a wrench, and then keep removing everything. All right, so jumping onto the power steering knuckle and just removing this bad boy, this bolt. So once we get the rack off, it'll just should wink wink slide off. Yeah, I'm just gonna take the whole bolt out because sometimes it does. If I look at the one on the table, there's usually a slot where the bolt goes through. All right, so 15 millimeter, you got the bolt and then the nut on top. Let's see how easy that knuckle slides off. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the screwdriver itself right through the little slit where the bolt goes through, just to kind of open it up a tad bit. There we go. Ooh, M3 V5 US. Genuine M3 rack, if anybody wants it. So everything here is for the E36, and what we're doing is we're using the outer tie rods of the E36. So we'll be installing both sides. That's why we were making sure that we didn't mess up the threads here when we were taking them off. So that's what we're going to do. I already got this one loosened up, so we're going to just start swapping them out. Another thing what we end up doing is just try to get it as close as possible. What it was is we took a measurement from the rack itself that we're going to be identical on both, and we measured it to as best as possible to the center of the tie rod, so we can get a measurement, so that way we could mimic it on the new rack. It's going to get us close, which is going to be enough to be able to get it to the alignment bay. Okay, so we got the the tie rods installed. We got them to the measurements that the old one was. If it is off, we'll adjust it by eye here on the rack. So, but we should be ready to get it in. Just going to take these off, which are my crush washers. I already did, and start putting it in there. So the only thing is, I just got to make sure that the steering wheel still stays straight while I put the splines through here. So, and there is that slot, and that's where the bolt goes through. So, you know, you do got to have the bolt completely out when you take that knuckle off. So let's get to it. All right, so we've got a little bit of a struggle in here trying to get the splines in, which is odd. Haven't had this much of an issue with them before, so, but want to keep fighting it. We got it in, we got it all aligned. It's just a matter of getting it to slide in a little bit more. So I was using my flathead screwdriver to, you know, put it in here to give me a little bit more of a gap, and still fighting it a tad bit. So pretty much everyone that I've done has been this way. So it's odd that it's fighting me this much. So, but we're gonna keep pressing on. So I end up having to take the rack back out. This was fighting us a little bit too much. And it is just super snug. We looked at the splines. The splines are not messed up at all. It's just super tight. So I even went through with a little pick to try to clean any debris, anything like that on there, and we did throw a little lube on it. And I'm just having to tap it in, which is odd. This is the first time I've ever had this issue before on this. So, but in your lifetime, there's always are some issues. So. So the orientation of the line, very key. So you have that little hoop here, and you can see it orientates and goes on the pump itself. On the back end, there's a hump that goes all the way towards the back. You can see it goes that way. You can see there's the bend right here that goes around the motor mount and down and connects into the rack up right here. So the best thing is having this one, the one on the rack first, and then bending it and getting its correct hoop or curve, and then tighten it here. So the rest of it now, it's all together, so all I got to do is just tighten them all down, and then the steering rack is technically done, and then we'll go ahead and finish up the rest up top. So I'll go ahead and get those bolts tightened down. All right, let me add a little bit. You're not doing it anymore, right? Yeah.